大家可能还记得我们在暑假的时候，我们有一个短宣队，到哪去了？到泰国。今天呢，上帝就把泰国带到这里来了。我们今天很高兴就是在泰国的巴拿巴和玛塔呢，他能够来到我们中间，跟我们一起的分享。那我们就把时间呢，就交给巴拿巴牧师。
Thank you. So, this one control that one?
Yeah.
I'll take this one down. Okay. Try it again.
This is working.
Okay, also working.
Can you see?
Okay. Good morning. When I received a letter from Mr. Jin Hui and give me trouble to make a decision because of my country evangelist, how can I be a preacher here in America? Impossible. So over here, a lot of highly trained pastors, a lot of highly trained pastors around here. And also, in my daily life, I speak Lisu or Burmese or some others, native Chinese or like a Thai or something like that. I don't speak English, not very much chance to speak English. So this morning, I try to speak English the best I can. I hope you understand, but maybe you don't speak the English like me, okay? Okay. So because that helped me to make a decision is like, okay, my English is not good enough, and most of the time I was in the jungle, driving up and down. So maybe I better not go. But finally I was thinking, okay, because of my age, because of my experience, yeah, I would like to share about my experience with the brother and sister in the over here. That's why I came over here. So I would like to say thank you, brother and sister from here. This time, actually, my wife she didn't want to come, but Jin Hui, he designated already you and your wife. So so this is my wife. She also come along with us. Her name is Martha. Okay. Yeah. When we talk about preaching the gospel, yeah, I have a lot of things to say. And also, if pray, unless without the prayer is very difficult. The reason is that our prayer is working together with the power of God. Unless we have a prayer, we cannot do the ministry. So like when we talk about prayer matter, it will take a long time to explain it to you. You know, there's not only the teaching of prayer, but my practical life in prayer. I would like to share that one. But this morning is like we were going to. We don't talk about the ministry a lot. We will talk about the Bible. Okay. Thanksgiving is coming. Okay. Maybe next month you will have Thanksgiving. That's why I choose the Thanksgiving. Okay. Let's see the Thanksgiving. History background of the Thanksgiving. When we read the creation order, like 7 days order. But the third day is God created the earth and the vegetables, the fruits. So when we celebrate Thanksgiving, we have to read this passage. Unless we have this passage, we don't know where the vegetable comes from. This is the very important verse when we hold the Thanksgiving. Okay, this one. And when we, while ago, the first one's like in Buddhist teaching, there were fire, and water, and air, and also earth. All these things come to exist because of these four things. So they don't have God the Creator. The problem is that when they don't have God, when they pray, who is going to listen to them? So a lot of Buddhist people, they are praying. When they don't have a God, nobody can answer their prayer. So here the Bible, we have God the Creator. That's why when we pray, He hear our prayers. And so that's we finish. Try to finish the first one. And second was no setting law period on the eating food. And God created the food, the crops, but no laws. Like the first thing is from Adam to Noah, 10 generations passed. No rules on the food. And from Noah to Abraham, another 10 generations passed. But no laws on food. God didn't say anything on the food. And then Noah and his son Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. There's no law on the food. You can eat anything you want. You can eat the way you want like that. No limits. And then they were in the Egypt for 430 years. So 24 generations plus 430 years since they created the crops. No laws on the food. You can eat the way you want. There's no law. So the third point is giving laws on food. Giving laws on food, no mentioned it in the Genesis, but we will see Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. So intentionally tell about the Thanksgiving over here. God has purpose. That's why during we don't see this passage in the Genesis. We will see in the Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. According to the Bible passage, when you have time, you can go over there. You see, God has proposed, particularly talk about the first fruit like that. Okay, the first fruit, it's a promise. The first fruit is a promise. Let's see, during this law is given them during the time they were slavery in the Egypt. So the information comes first. This information is wait for 40 years in order to follow the teaching. Right now it's the first fruit. Exodus 23:19. Bring the best of the first fruit of your soul to the house of the Lord your God. So this information first. And Israel people didn't know what does this mean, and information. And secondly, celebration. Celebrate the festival of the harvest with the first fruit of the crops you you sow in your field. It's a celebration. First fruit and celebration. This God gave them commands like that. And the third is to bring them on Sunday. So this is very important Bible verses when we see Leviticus 23, verse 9 to 11. When we have a first fruit, you have to bring the first fruit on the first day of the week, not on Sunday. So this changed the whole future ministry. This is the passage that for today. We worship God on Sunday instead of a Sabbath day. We worship on the day of on the first day of the week. So it's a form of worship. Like every people come over there and worship God together. So like honor God in the first place means first fruit must be first. You say first fruit and you can choose your own time to come to the Lord. Not that way. You cannot eat any of the from your cross before you give first fruit to the Lord. That must be first area. Okay. And then 5 days on. When we talk about Pentecost means 50 days. 50 days. 50 day means 7 weeks. 7 weeks, 49 is 7 Sabbath. But 50 means on Sunday. So Pentecost also on Sunday, not Sabbath. Also the first fruit of the to bring to the Lord is on Sunday, not on Sabbath day. So this will change. It's a reminder of God's promise that we will be worshiping God today. We don't worship God on Sunday, on Sabbath. We worship God on Sunday. I think I would like to advise to the Seventh-day Adventists to read this passage. It's changed. Now we want to change. God indicated that way. It's a future. God? It's a reminder of God's promise for the future ministry, from Sabbath to Sunday. So right now we are Sunday worshiping God that way. A joyful festival. So everybody come and worship to the Lord. Everybody should come to the church. Number 8 is God's guest, or God is the real host. In this Thanksgiving or first fruit festival is actually here, if I do something in my family, I'm the host. But God is the one who indicated the guest. God is the host. You said the first thing, we would like to invite whom? When we do something in the family, we have to invite someone to whom we were going to invite. People who know us. We were not going to invite people that we don't know. But God indicated that. Priest, you have to, God, determine the guest. The first is the priest, the strangers, orphans, and widows. God invite the guest. Now we invite the guest. You give the Thanksgiving to the Lord, and God will be the host. If God will be the host, He can bless us. If we are the host, then we cannot bless ourselves. So we bring the Thanksgiving this thing before the Lord, and God is the host to bless us and to bless others, both sides. Bless the guests and bless the one who worship. So on the 9th is blessing from God. So from heaven, if we do this way, from heaven, God will blessing us. So God is the host, means God can bless for me and for the guests. And number 10 is precise timing. Each year, limited time, you cannot change. I will do Thanksgiving in this time, or now I'm so busy, next time. I will do it next week or next month. It's a limited time. So you have to, this is precise timing like that. So, let's go to 12. You have to come. No one is appear before me empty-handed. So everybody come, you have to bring something. In this past whole year, did God give you anything? Or God didn't give you anything? If God gave you something, then bring something to the Lord. You cannot come this Thanksgiving Day with empty-handed. Okay, the 11, 40 years journey. This is writing on the Mount of Sinai. When Moses was with God for 40 days and 40 nights without having food and water. I think nowadays nobody can stay without the food and water for 40 days. But Moses was with God for 40 days and 40 nights with no water and no food. And God told Moses, write it down. Unless this Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, these 5 books were written by Moses on the Mount of the Sinai. God is the one who told him these things. If not, how can Moses know about Adam's born? And if how God created Adam, or how God created Eve? So this God knows he is the one who created. So he explained to Moses and write it down. So so this and these 5 books are the foundation of future God's plan. So Thanksgiving is one of them. Yeah, this one a while ago I tried to explain that one is information from God. During the time they were traveling, not in Egypt. During the time they were traveling for 40 years, as they are left from Egypt, they got information from God. Unless they got information from God, they don't know anything. So, number 4 is promise reminder, Lord's caring for 40 years. So when we see Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 1, they say, when you enter the promised land, you have to follow. So this teaching is the reminder of promised land, the reminder of God's promised land. If God didn't bring you to Canaan, then you don't need to practice this one. 40 years to carry. The priest carry this teaching. 40 years to carry this teaching for 40 years. And when the fifth point, like Israel in promised land. Now, by leading by Joshua, Moses is gone. Joshua is the one who led Israel across the Jordan River and go to promised land. When they arrived at the promised land, they have to, right now, God promised land is already fulfilled. We need to follow the teaching. We have to practice Thanksgiving here in Israel. So Thanksgiving in Israel is like Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9. You have to bring the best of your first fruit to the Lord. So how many years they practice Thanksgiving? Like at the time, 480 years from the year that they arrived in the Canaan land until Solomon, the fourth year of Solomon, become a king. So there's 480 years. And then Solomon was killed 970 BC. But in 586, the Babylonian King Nebuchadnezzar ruled, take over the Israel. No king, no process of sacrificing to the Lord, no more. Maybe that year, 586, or a little bit earlier than that year, the Ark of Covenant was gone. Maybe they keep it ahead of time, or maybe they destroyed it, we don't know. So 70 years in the Babylon, and when they back from Babylon, about 500 years. So totally is about 1,350 years they practice the Thanksgiving. During the time Jesus Christ was on this earth, the second temple is very good condition, but one thing is left. The Ark of Covenant is not in the holies of holies. No, there's no the Ark of Covenant when Jesus was on this earth. So when we say about 1,500 years, in this period, how many goats and how many cattle and how many sheep were sacrificed to the Lord? Just the dedication of Solomon, dedication of the temple during the time the King Solomon, 120,000 sheep were sacrificed to the Lord. And 20,000 cattle were sacrificed to the Lord. So within this 1,500 years, how many sheep, how many cattle, how many goats will be killed? So many. So by the time the first fruit, Jesus Christ, appeared, Christ's blood is more powerful than animal's blood. Christ's blood is more precious than animal's blood. Christ's blood only washes our sins away. So that many animals cannot compare to the blood of Christ. Okay, New Testament first fruit indicated Messiah and Christian. In the right now NIV, when I read the book of NIV, like Romans chapter 16 verse 5, and the 1 Corinthians chapter 16 verse 15, NIV didn't say that first fruit. NIV say that new convert, but originally it's first fruit, because when we say the first fruit is flowing through the Bible. So like we see Christ is the first fruit. Christ has indeed raised from the dead, the first fruit of those who have fallen asleep. So right now we know the first fruit is, when we look at the New Testament, it's indicated to Christ. He's the first fruit. So like when we look on the day of the week, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, 4 books. Jesus Christ raised it on the first day of the week. A while ago, Leviticus chapter 23 said, the first fruit must be offered to the Lord on the first day of the Sabbath. Right now, Jesus Christ rose from the dead on the first day of the Sabbath. So the first fruit in the Old Testament was foreshadow of Christ. The foreshadow of Christ. The real is Jesus Christ. So like Christians are two things. The first thing, those who accept Jesus Christ, they call the first fruit. Second is Christ will be the first fruit, and we are partaker of in his resurrection. Those who believe in Jesus Christ are partaking of his resurrection. So as Christ resurrected, his promise for us is one day we will be resurrected. When we look to John chapter 6, verse 37 to 40, in the last day I will raise them. In the last day I will raise them up. They're mentioned 2 times over there. So when we believe Jesus Christ, by Christ's power, he raised us from the dead and lead us to heaven. So Christians are the first fruit of the Christ. So number 6. So Thanksgiving for today. Thanksgiving for today's. Suppose we read Proverbs chapter 23, verse 9 and 10. It's indicated to the Genesis chapter 1, verse 9 to 13. God created this thing, so we give thanks to God. It's a physical. So we need to divide 2 levels. Now Christian, over there, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruit of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will bring over with new wines. So in the spiritual is like what the first session is indicated to the Genesis chapter 1, verse 19 to 13. But second, for today, we are celebrating Thanksgiving. We see that Thanksgiving is the reminder of God's promise for the saved one. So when we look to the Revelation chapter 14, verse 4, there was 144,000 in heaven. So 144,000 people in heaven called it as a first fruit. So the first fruit is Christ is the first fruit. And second is those who accept Jesus Christ as our personal Savior. That were the Christians called first fruit. And the third one is Christians would be called the first fruit who are saved in heavens. That was a Revelation chapter 14, verse 4. So when you read over there, 144,000 people who are in heaven called it as first fruit. Purchased it by Christ's blood. We were purchased by Christ's blood. So Thanksgiving here in America will be a little bit different from Asia. So second thing is the Thanksgiving is a reminder of God's promise for the saved one in heaven. So learning by doing, like in our church, we bring whatsoever you have, corn, pumpkins, whatsoever you have. You bring something. A while ago, God said, no one is appear before me with empty hand. That is your substitute. It's your representative. This is the shadow of in heaven. The shadow of in heaven. You bring your anything, even though you don't grow. You can in Asia we don't grow it, but some people don't grow it, but they bought from the market and present it over here. It is your represent, your substitute. This is a foreshadow of in heaven. You bring yourself before the Lord. So this is the shadow of heaven. Anything that you brought before the Lord is your represent of you. So this is like a reminder of God's promise for saved ones in heaven. So when we do Thanksgiving is not only reading chapter, the Genesis book, Genesis, the first chapter, verse 9 and 13. It's a physical. And when we read, the book from Jeremiah or from the Proverbs or even from the Psalm, it's a physical. But for us today, spiritual is like Thanksgiving is the reminder of God's promise for the saved one in heaven. That means, what we brought to the Lord is one day we will be before the Lord. So this is like a very important, like a baptism. Baptism, it's a reminder of God's promise. In the baptism, what we see, you will die on this earth, but you will raise in heaven. You will die on this earth when you go to the water. But in heaven, you will raise up again. So this is a reminder of God's promise. One day you will be raised in heaven. And even the, the Lord's Supper, as a reminder of God's promise. What do we say? So many thousands of animals shedding blood. But we cannot compare with the blood of Christ. So in the Lord's Supper, we can see the bread and the wine. God loved us that much. He shed his blood. He gave his body. So give us a new life. That means no matter what kind of a life you have, God never leaves you. The reminder of the Lord's Supper is God never leaves you. So right now, Thanksgiving is the reminder of God's promise for the saved ones in heaven. So who is going to be the saved ones? We are the saved ones in heaven. So the Thanksgiving over here is the foreshadow of our life in heaven. These things represents our life. We know these things ahead of time. God, everything that God did in the book of Genesis or during their life, it has purpose, has meaning. So this meaningful Thanksgiving reminds us that one day we will be in heaven. It's very important. Maybe this year, somehow we'll be leading the Thanksgiving like this. Yeah, I was thinking when from Thailand, it's a Thanksgiving season. This is the reminder of God's promise for safe ones in heaven. We can see over here, this is the foreshadow of the safe ones in heaven. So when we celebrate this one, the leaders also busy. The young people also involved, busy. There will be some singing and performing. So many activities will be following. And this is the true picture is one day we will be in heaven. So the kids will be learning the creation, the creation order, and also the God's promise. So like today, as we come to the church, this is the foreshadow of the safe ones in heaven. So like Thanksgiving in our area, every year, but it's not limited time. Depends on how the people, how they say, oh, my field that not harvested yet, I'm not ready. So they wait for one another, and the whole village celebrate one day. Every family brings something. Then you see a lot of things, these things. On the preaching days, like everybody is invited because God is the host. Now this church is the host. God is the host. If God is the host, God bless each one. If we try to be the host, then we cannot bless ourselves. And when all these things are brought out to the church, okay, they divide it and sometimes give to the pastors. If we have too many, then we share to elders and deacons. If we don't need to share, then they sell it and use in the church. It's too many. So we have some 100 bushel, basket of the rice. Sometimes 200 pack, bag of the corn, something like that. So they can sell and support to the ministry. So Thanksgiving in October, those who grow early crops, they celebrate the Thanksgiving October. Those who grow a little bit late crops, they will do in November. So this morning, about the Thanksgiving that I share to you is, like I explained it to you, maybe in the future you will make a research or study more, and you can share these things to our brothers and sisters. May God bless you. 这边逛。